Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the new Nintendo Switch games for this week. Now, I think pretty much everyone is going to be very focused on Wednesday's Direct. I know I will, but just in case you're looking for something new and fun to play for this week, I think I picked out 7 really great games releasing this week. Now, don't forget, if you are liking the video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Now, let's jump into the games. So our first game for this week is actually releasing on April 2nd, the same day as we're getting that famous Direct. And that game is Croc Legend of the Gobbos. Now, if you've never heard of this game before, it is a ground-up remake of a PS1 classic 3D platformer. It's maybe not the best platformer from the PS1, but it is one that I hold dear to my heart because I really loved it back in the day, although the controls were maybe not the best around. And that's pretty much my biggest ask for this game. Give us the exact same game with better graphics and just controls that actually make it fun to play on every level, instead of just being an extremely nostalgic experience. Now, let's jump into the trailer and then we'll talk a little bit more about the game. And they seem to have kept the real same spirit behind the artwork. Obviously, no comparison to the PS1 graphics, but the same spirit. It's one of those classic collectathons, I would say very much akin to Spyro the Dragon. And I don't know, but this gameplay is actually looking pretty decent. The music is right on point as well. Well, they're saying smoothed out controls, so hopefully that will be true. Because like I said, that was probably one of the only true down points of the original game. Wow, a lot of little add-ons too. Nice to see. Pretty long trailer as well, so we're getting a good view. And there we go. We have Croc Legend of the Gobbos. So like I said, I think this is one of those iconic platformers from the PS1 that I would place somewhat in the same category as the original Spyro. Like the first entry would probably be comparable, although not quite as iconic. But I really think it's going to be a great experience for someone who's nostalgic for the original game, or maybe also a great way to introduce newer players to 3D platformers, because it generally does have simpler controls. Now, by the way, when I'm referring to the controls back in the day, they almost controlled like tank controls, which is why it was actually so hard in some parts of the game to get some really good platforming experiences. Hopefully this time we'll have full joystick control and that will all be smoothed out. So I know I personally am super excited for Croc Legend of the Gobbos. It is releasing on April 2nd. It's also selling for $29.99. So for a full ground-up remake of a classic PS1 game, that price point is actually not too bad. So at $30, honestly, I would jump into this one. Great game, I think, for this week. Now, let's take a look at the next one. Now, our next game is also releasing on April 2nd. It is called Dagger Froggy, and it's going to be selling this one for only $4.99. Now, this is a cutesy take on the Vampire Survivor style of gameplay. Now, we've seen a lot of games come out like this, but I'll be honest, this one managed to capture my attention based on the gameplay that I saw in the trailer and also the graphical style. Going for a very cutesy style, but it seems to really work for the game. It's already offering multiple selectable characters, and at $5, I think it's going once again for that right price point. Now, obviously, if you haven't played Vampire Survivors yet, pick that up first. But if you're really into that style of gameplay and you want to try something a little different, I think this one could maybe turn out to be a pretty decent offering. So let's take a look at the trailer and see what exactly we're talking about. So like I said, very pixel art heavy, but with a much more cutesy art style, reminding me somewhat almost of Turnip Boy. So we've got the level up system, you know, we've got the, obviously, well, infinite hordes per level. Unlockable characters and stages. So there we go. Now this is one of those genres that sort of exploded on the Switch and we get a lot of different takes on it. However, this one managed to capture my attention. I often skip over them because a lot of them look very, very samey. This one at least seems to have a very interesting graphical style, and I'm loving the budget price point of $5. Obviously, you know, Vampire Survivors is also a $5 game, which is why I'm saying that one should always come first. But nonetheless, I think this is going to be a decent entry into the genre for someone looking for something different to play in the same type of style. Okay, next we have Lonestar that is hitting us on April 3rd. And this one is going to be selling for $14.99. However, currently there is a pre-release discount, dropping it to $12.74. Now, this is a very original tactical roguelike deck builder. Why? Because your deck builder is actually building you a spaceship and you're working up to a laser showdown with an opponent. The trailer is going to sort of put all those words together in something that makes sense in just a minute. But basically, I really like this different take on a deck builder. And ultimately, if you win the laser battle, you get rewarded with new parts for your ship. Even you can go on vacations in the game. I'm not exactly sure what happens on these vacations, but you're rewarded in the game when you win these laser battles. The visual presentation is also, I find, really interesting in the game, and I love to see a different take on a deck builder. So let's take a look at the trailer, and like I said, it'll get these ideas solidified. So basically, you see you're building your ship, and then each ship blasts its lasers, and whoever wins, wins. And I'm really loving like all these different graphical presentations of the ships, showing you that there's like probably an almost infinite way of building your ships. So honestly, I think this is a really interesting twist on a deck builder. Bringing in that sci-fi aspect to it, that spaceship building aspect as well, is probably going to pull in a different audience while keeping that sort of background of a deck builder and a roguelike. So I really, really am interested in this one. This one is very high on my list of games to try for this week, by the way. It's maybe only pushed aside by like maybe one other game that I can really see on the list, but this one has me extremely interested. I think it's going to be maybe a surprise hit for this week. So I do think that if you're looking for something new in the roguelike genre, different take, have this on your list, Lonestar for $14.99. Okay, now jumping into what we need to have in each and every list, a brand new Metroidvania called Biomorph. Now, Biomorph is also releasing on April 3rd. It'll be selling for $19.99. Once again, a pretty decent price for a Metroidvania. However, we're getting a lot of competition at that price point. And just last week, I played a great RPG Metroidvania called Twilight Monk. So let's just say it's getting pretty crowded in the Metroidvania space right now. However, this one has a, number one, great art style. Number two, a very original mechanic, where as you defeat the enemies, you have the ability to morph into your enemies to basically use their abilities to your advantage. So I do think this is going to be, once again, possibly one with such a unique mechanic that it's going to manage to set it apart from others. However, I've got to say right now, it's settling in with some pretty stiff competition. But let's take a look at the trailer, and you can let me know what you think in the comments down below as well. So don't worry, we're going to be getting some gameplay very shortly. So here he absorbs the enemy, and then you become the enemy. Here again. What's unclear is if you only have like one transformation, then you have to kill the enemy again. From the menu bar at the bottom, it doesn't look like that's the case, but it's possible that that's the way it works. The art style is actually pretty interesting as well. Once again, a mix of like fantasy and sci-fi. Some of these boss fights are looking interesting. Pretty good looking game. I've got to say. Now, obviously, like I said, it's a crowded space, so I'm wondering if this is gonna have enough to break out of it. But I've got to say, it has the major elements. It has a really original art style, a very original premise with an original ability that can draw people in to get to try it. The question is the storyline going to deliver? Because they do seem to be putting a storyline in, but is it going to be just a background to the gameplay, or is it actually going to be like deliver something concrete? That is maybe what can manage to set it apart and have it like break out. But once again, very good game for this week. It is not the game that actually has me most excited, however. Simply because I've played a ton of Metroidvanias lately, I'm sort of looking for something fresh for this week. And it's coming up just a little bit later. But nonetheless, if you are in the market for a new one, I think this one could be a definite one to keep on your radar. Maybe wait for a couple of reviews to see how it shakes out. Okay, so that we were still on April 3rd. Now we are jumping to A Vault of the Void. Also releasing on April 3rd. I think this is going to be... No, we have one more on April 3rd. So, Vault of the Void is going to be releasing for $17.99. Now, this is a card... Basically, a roguelike deck builder, once again. However, this one really doesn't hide what it's trying to do. It's a card game. It actually visually reminds me a lot of Hearthstone. Both in its visuals and also its fast-paced gameplay and the way the different animations go through. But it also has me extremely interested because Hearthstone was a great game. So if you can get something going in the same genre with a nice twist of different cards, we could have something really good on our hands. Especially that this one seems to be a fully developed game for $17.99, so you're not going to have to buy other cards or keep putting money into the game. Let's take a look at the trailer and you'll see what I'm talking about. So once again, if you've played Hearthstone, I think right away the visuals are going to draw you, like your mind to those visuals. It obviously does have a lot of differences as well. And I love that apparently you can customize your own cards. That is something that I think is going to attract a lot of players that like card games. Because I think a lot of people would always love to make their own cards. Like I said, the gameplay also looks very fast-paced, which is fun as well. When card games get too slow-paced, it can become annoying. And there we have Vault of the Void. Once again, I have strong feelings that this can deliver something pretty decent for this week. If you're in the card genre as well, it's been a while that we haven't had a pure like TCG type card game come out on the Switch and deliver something like really fun. So I'm happy to see. And what's really odd is we're going to have another one on today's list, but in a totally different style, which is actually going to be our next game. But I do think if you're into the genre, keep an eye on Vault of the Void, coming out on April 3rd. $17.99 for a full card game is pretty good. However, it does not beat the price on our next one, which is called Perfect Hand of Nostalpix. My bad. The Perfect Hand of Nostalpix. So basically, this game is also coming out on April 3rd. However, it's going to be selling for an extremely budget price of $6.99. It is once again a deck builder. It is once again a straightforward card game, but this one with a very retro Game Boy aesthetic. I'm on the fence here, because either its budget price point is really trying to break out the game and get people to try it, or maybe the game is just going to be slightly too simple and not offer the variety to keep you coming back to a card game. But let's take a look at the trailer, and if I had to like roll the dice and take a chance for this week on a budget game, I think this would be the one I would take a chance on. Let's take a look and see what we can see. And that's maybe also one of the problems, is that the trailer is extremely short. It's the only one I could find. And you don't get a really good idea of how the gameplay plays out. Like, there seems to be a field, card positioning, and as you can see, like, cards seem to be attacking like squares that are immediately above or below it. But I would have liked to see maybe a little bit more gameplay here. To sell your game, add an extra 30 seconds, show us a few interactions between the different cards if you really want to sell your game. At the same time, though, I don't want to discount the game completely because they put a short trailer out. Visually, to me, it's appealing. If the gameplay can stand up to something fun for $7, once again, if you're into card games, this could actually be a, like, absolute steal for this week. So we're already at our last game, and we're finally moving on from April 3rd. Our last game is going to be coming out on April 4th, and it's called Is This Game Trying to Kill Me? And it'll be selling for $19.99. However, it currently has a pre-release discount, dropping it to $15.99. So 20% is actually not too bad. And this is my top game for this week. This Honestly, I love the concept. You're basically locked in a cabin, playing a video game, and the video game's traps, it's a trap-based like puzzle game, and the traps are coming to life in the cabin and trying to kill you. So it mixes puzzle gameplay with horror in a really original way. Sort of like we saw in that card-based game where you're also locked in a cabin. I have a small blank on the name, but it is an absolutely fantastic game as well. And this one is very much giving me the same creepy vibes. So let's take a look at the trailer. And I think this is going to be my top game for this week. I definitely think we're going to be playing this one on stream when we get around to it. I love also the absolute retro look at the game, but the outside world is actually almost like semi 3D. And honestly, I haven't played a good indie horror game in a little while on the Switch, and I'm sort of in the mood for that. Obviously, the graphics being slightly like cartoonish, I don't know if it's going to have that like jump fear element to it, but I love the creepiness of it. I love the creepiness of this game, and I think it's going to hit with a lot of people. Now, obviously, I hope the gameplay stands up. I hope the gameplay is good. But you know what? At $20, I'm willing to take a risk on this one. I really think it's going to manage to deliver something fun and unique as an experience. Like, even if it isn't the best game of all time, it is definitely going to be delivering something unique that you don't really get in any other game. So there we have it, the 7 new Nintendo Switch games that stood out for this week. Let me know in the comments down below what game you think you might be picking up for this week. Have any jumped out at you that are really like caught your eye? At the same time, did you maybe think I missed a game that's coming out this week that I forgot to highlight? Let me know in the comments down below as well. And as usual, don't forget on the way out to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and click on that notification bell so you know when all my future videos come out. And as usual, I'll see you in my next video.